Hi, I'm Erica Crompton, and this is my vlog for the final major project sketchbook for the BA Contemporary Creative Practice, specialising in fine art. So just before I start with the sketchbook, the purpose of my work was to destigmatise schizophrenia, which is an illness I suffer from, and started off at the Bethlehem Museum of the Mind. Just see that there, which is the former Bedlam site in Kent, which is kind of famous in Victorian times. They'd have like the freak shows and go along and look at a mad person type thing. But now it's like a really beautiful place set in the countryside, and they've got a gallery on site with lots of service user art or schizophrenic art or outsider art or brute art or whatever you want to call it. And some highlights for me at the exhibition were things that kind of played with perceptions and different ways of looking at reality that you get with psychosis, which is a part of schizophrenia. So yeah, George J. Harding was a highlight for me, and so was Liz Atkins. And George J. Harding has done some covers for the Lancet Psychiatry, which is a really nice gig to get. And they're really beautiful and colourful. And he went to Chelsea College of Art, and he had schizophrenia. And then there's Liz Atkins, who has like a compulsive skin picking disorder, and she uses sketching with charcoal to release that kind of obsession, as you like. And she gives them out on tubes, so she kind of gets the metro and does a charcoal sketch and hands them out around tubes to campaign to raise awareness. They're both brilliant artists who have inspired this project quite a bit. So I needed a starting point, and I thought as a starting point I'd look at brainwaves, which you can see just there, the brainwaves, and I thought it was quite nice actually. There's a song on YouTube which is, it's kind of like a recording of the sound that brainwaves make, and it's quite beautiful. It's kind of like this lo-fi electronic music, which is the sort of stuff I listen to anyway. So I thought, yeah, this is great. I'd like to use that. So I looked at the brainwaves, and then I started looking at different ways in textiles to represent those brainwaves. And if you look at brainwaves, I found this kind of GIF on Google. The different types of brainwaves are represented by bright colours, which is why often the brain scans are so pretty and beautiful. So there's orange, yellow, green, blue, and a lighter blue. And I've just kind of used some Liberty textiles, some fabric I got from Liberty's, and kind of put some ribbon on to make the brainwaves, and then some other colours. If you go to a charity shop, you can get what's called a bag of rags, which is all the stuff that just didn't sell. And you can get it for like 70p, 4 kilograms of unwanted clothes. So I use these, and with the brainwaves, I kind of wanted to represent how the medication can sometimes improve the condition and even make you happy in the case of Prozac. So I've just kind of got some acetate and put on like smiley faces. So as kind of like the brainwaves and then the medication and then the effects. So that's where I started. Layers of consciousness was another idea I had. It also kind of represents the layers of consciousness. And I thought the rainbow colours was a great idea, because it's not just seen in brainwaves, but also like when you get stories about mental health in the media, they're always got the head clutcher, and they're really they're all really tragic. So I kind of like the idea that something quite colourful and bright would challenge those grey stereotypes. So this is George J. Harding, and he wrote a couple of pieces for the Lancet Psychiatry actually, and he was talking about how when he paints something, he might start with a photograph in the shower, and it's kind of the water and the shower drops are kind of distorting your perception of reality already, and then he will paint something like that, like a self-portrait. I think that's self-portrait. But I really like the colours as well, and this kind of idea of warping reality. Then randomly, as I can be quite random, I'd had this idea of doing a kind of brain surgery to depict psychosis, and it was kind of inspired by this kind of brain exploding of George J. Hardin, and what I've done is I've got magazines and I've taken a scalpel to kind of create the brainwaves and make that kind of layer of consciousness. I'm walking with reality, so it's kind of disturbed the text. And it's just a random idea I had of how I could maybe depict psychosis, and then with the background in journalism, I dubbed it brain surgery, which consequently made it into the local paper, which was quite good. While I was studying on the course, I was a bit I had so many ideas, like the brain surgery ideas. I got a little bit lost, and my tutor says, maybe you can look at Pinterest and get some ideas from there. Look at the artists. So I started printing out stuff from Pinterest that I looked at brain art. So there was one like a skull here, if you can see that, with polka dots on. And the polka dots I kind of related back to Yayoi Kusumi, who's an artist from Japan who she actually lives on site of a psychiatric hospital and creates other worlds using dots. She's got like an obsession with dots. So I quite like that. And then I had this idea that from way back when I was studying a BTEC in fashion design in 1998 to make like sequins and then print on them. And I thought back then I was doing stuff about gardening, and I printed little flies onto sequins. But now I've decided that what if I made some sequins like Prozac pills, and they could be like the dots and could do something with those. So that was a random idea that I had. But I also saw Brainwaves. This was suggested to me. It's a dog with lettuce leaves on its head, and I thought the kind of frilly lettuce leaves in green were quite nice for Brainwaves as well. But then I thought I don't really want to stick lettuce on my head, so I probably won't do that. But it was quite nice anyway. There was loads of ideas that sort of, like this one here is a picture called The Chaos, and it's like an illustration of a girl with waves coming out of her head, and I really liked that, but then it wasn't quite so colourful, and I mean it's a pun, brainwaves, but it didn't really sit with my style. So I looked at the Yayoi Kusumi's docs, and then I kind of did in the style of Liz Atkin, painting over a picture. I got a red pen and painted over myself, and then did some kind of Prozac polka dots at the top. And then kind of, it's all a bit disjointed, but we had a lecture on colour psychology, and a while ago I sent some birthday present to a friend who's from Hong Kong, and I wrote it in red thinking, oh, it's friendship, love, but apparently she was really offended by that because it could be seen as a death threat in China. So I kind of had an awareness that maybe red could be offensive to some people. Okay, so the next thing that I looked at here, facing a scanner, which I kind of like the claustrophobia of being either trapped by diagnosis or trapped by the symptoms of psychosis. And I thought, rather than this is the original ones that I saw, and I quite liked the idea of using sort of Hawaiian garlands and taking out the black ink to create something quite colourful that wasn't remotely dark. And then I've kind of sewn into it and put some stars on it to kind of just make it just a little bit chaotic. I sort of, it kind of the Joy Division's Unknown Pleasures album was suggested to me, and that's quite nice. It's kind of I think it's mountains or geographical print, but it kind of reminds me of Brainwaves. And how can I not include Joy Division? They're a great band, so I put them in and didn't take it any further. Okay, so there was lots of stuff on Pinterest that I had to include, and here's some more. So this is a neurological scan in those bright colours that we talked about earlier. Another neurological scan and another neurological scan, and then this is some art based on the scan, which is kind of like a tree, and I quite like the tree because I like the way it represented well-being. There's that kind of greenery and being the great outdoors, being good for your mental health, and I like that. I got some colours from the local fabric shops that were in the colours of medication packets. And then also I found this multicoloured wool which I quite like, which is just all over the sketchbook, the tiny little notes and everything.
And I mean, the ball itself looks like a neurological scan. It's like one big multicolored brain. So I quite like this as well. And you know, you can see those rainbow colours in the neurological scan. So you know, this is where I'm starting to think brainwaves would be quite nice. Okay, colour psychology. We've talked a little bit about that. How see, there's a picture of the head clutcher. When you type in psychosis into Google, the first thing that comes up is this demon clutching his head in black and white. Whereas with branding, multicoloured labels, so they kind of represent apparently being fun, easygoing, childlike, internet, multidisciplinary, and authority. Well, I don't think I'm an authority, but so you can lose that one. But multidisciplinary, internet, childlike, easygoing, and fun were all things that I thought could challenge the stereotypes of people with psychosis in the media. So other people that have used multicolours are Microsoft, Sprite, eBay, and I kind of got this idea much further down the line that I want to do like an online community called medfed.co, where people can sell their art and they can write a blog, and I can send them on luxury press trips and things like that. So that worked. The colour psychology worked quite well for me. And then just for fun, I did another brainwaves where it's taking the scalpel to someone's head to depict psychosis, and Psychology's magazine seems quite a nice one to cut up because I did subscribe for a year and kept all the old magazines, and I have actually written for them, so that was quite nice to do. Yeah, I had a go at getting inspired by Liz Atkins drawing on newspapers, and I did have this random idea that maybe because there is a kind of lap over between mental health and criminology, in that so many people in prison do have mental health problems, and I thought, you know, the hooligan mob jailed over match trouble, and I just thought, what if I kind of did something with that, you know, and take out all the insulting words and kind of make it a bit nicer, but I think, having spoke to a criminologist, we agreed that actually it was quite an insult to the person that I was decorating. So I had to go on myself, a little picture of me eating Corfu, and I've sewn into it there and kind of squiggled on it, and I used pen instead of the charcoal just because it doesn't smudge everywhere. And I made some paranoid eyes because one of my symptoms is like I get really paranoid. I've got a little quote here from Liz Atkins herself, from her website. Compulsive skin picking dominated my life for more than 20 years, but through a background in dance and theatre, I confronted the condition to harness creative repair and recovery. I create intimate artworks, photographs and performances, reimagining the body, focused, repetitive behaviour of skin picking. So that's a little bit more detail about her. There's a picture of her and just there with one of her compulsive charcoals. And there's me doing one of the bandits again, which didn't work. And then I had another idea. So I'd brought some gifts from Harvey Nichols for my friends this Christmas, and the packaging was really nice. It was like this kind of stringy, shredded package, and I thought, oh, wouldn't it be nice if I kind of got cutouts of magazines and then put the brainwaves on their head, and that was quite nice. I think it works quite well to keep it simple with me, because often if I do a whole big piece that's from cover to cover, it can get a little bit overhandled. So that was quite nice. It's kind of quite surreal. Yeah. And I tried another one with a slightly less thick cardboard in black and white. I had found out about like a group called 888 Collective, and they were interested to sell artwork by service users on their website, but they wanted it to be black and white, so I'd included a black and white one there. And then there was another one where I'd cut out the skeleton and then put that in, but it was kind of all lumpy, so that didn't work. However, if you spray over this like stencil here, you get a really nice kind of spooky cracked person. And I kind of thought a nice way of describing that like a kind of tagline, if you like, would be "Blessed are the cracks, for they let in the light." And I've just done another stencil and put that down there. Just playing around with collage really, and just exercising all the ideas that come to me in any one day. Okay, so more ideas. There's a brain scan there that with the Prozac sequins, which was just another one that went in the sketchbook a little bit later. And then I've done a collage where it's a cut-out face, and I'd used pins. We call them big heads when we were studying fashion at college. So bright pin heads, and then spiking out, so it looks like brainwaves on some Liberty's fabric. I really like Liberty's fabric. I spent ages just looking at the fabric there, and really nice perfumes as well. Okay, so that's that. Then there's another brainwaves one. This time with the Hawaiian garland stitched on, and you can hardly see my face there. There's my lips, my chin. But again, I've taken the black ink out of the printer, so it can just be like bright and colourful, and not in any way like the terrible head clutcher. So that's a self-portrait there. Okay, so then I went out and bought Vogue because I thought, well, actually, Medfed. Just to brief you on that, Medfed is a fashion label I started, and it was using fashion as a vehicle to challenge mental illness. And it's inspired by a label by Sophia Coppola, who's the daughter of the big director. And this label she's got is called Milk Fed, and it's quite big in Japan, but it's very fun. It's very fresh, and it was quite big in my heyday, sort of 2000. So I thought, well, I'm really inspired by this, and this is where I'm going to nick all my ideas. But I thought Medfed, because you're on medication and kind of Medfed, so it's a bit like being on medication and not being ashamed about it. But I thought if I could have a T-shirt with Medfed written on, it could start a conversation about mental health that could really help a person. So anyway, based on my old work, I decided to get Vogue, and I thought, oh, aren't these headbands nice? They're kind of like brainwaves, and I could do accessories like little headbands made out of the multicoloured wool. And I thought, well, actually, you could do brainwaves. I printed out a load of a colourful rainbow, and then put it over Agnes Dean's head. So that's brainwaves as well, and I quite like that. And I quite like the idea of doing my own self-portrait brain scan, and then putting tulle over it, and kind of sewing into it. But unfortunately, the tulle was quite brittle, so it got stuck in the sewing machine. So that idea didn't work out. Then I carried on looking at Vogue, and I thought, actually, Argyle is really in fashion right now. Colourful Argyle, and I really like that. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice? I think this is Amber Velita, a big supermodel from the late 90s. So I thought, oh, you could cut out like an Argyle pattern and then have it like as a crown, because that's kind of like brainwaves. I've done a little sketch of her because I thought, well, maybe rather than a magazine collage, you could paint it. And then these are the Argyle sweaters that inspired it. Okay, more Vogue, but this time I looked at the art in Vogue, and I really like this artist here, and I thought that's quite like brainwaves, and I've used it. I've kind of used acetate over the top and googly paranoid eyes, and sewn some of that Liberty's fabric into it, and I was just really playing around with it. But also, I don't have it with me, but I did a big kind of copy of this in A3. And also, when I started the course and was getting back into painting, I did some copies of Nikki de Saint Falinanas they were sculptures, and I did it flat in paint. And I think what's really nice is when you have a diagnosis of schizophrenia, you can spend a whole lot of your time, especially around other people, just pretending to be normal. And I kind of like this idea of copycat art, where you're just kind of doing something that's pretending to be normal. And I thought, oh, it's quite nice if I sell them off quite cheap, because they don't take that long to do. Then it's a service user could be pretending to have this high art that's in Vogue that sells for thousands of pounds, and there's no difference really. So this idea, it's quite cathartic as well, just pretending to do something. It's kind of like, imposter syndrome that some of us have. So that was quite nice. So that was yeah, that was the art in vogue. And then still looking at hair accessories, what did it say? Budding Genius. Yes, apparently like hair accessories and hair haberdashery or hair badashery is really in vogue right now. So I've looked at maybe collage in that. So I'd use the Hawaiian flowers because they're just so bright and colourful. The tool hadn't worked out. What I got for the fire, some of the logs came in this Hessian sack, which was yellow, and I thought that was quite nice to sew into, and just make a collage like that. So like brainwave hair accessories. I'd been to an exhibition of the MA at Birmingham City University at the MAC in Birmingham about a year ago, and there were some collages there that were quite political, that were really nice but quite simple and easy to do. And I did want a kind of Vogue versus Prozac collage that I've done here. And it's just something like, you know, the heads go, it's a bit like a Monty Python sketch where the head goes open and then Prozac flows out, you know. So I wanted to do something like that just to see how easy it was, and it took like 2 seconds, so it was really, really easy. So collage is quite a nice way to express yourself as well. So that's Vogue times Prozac collage. So then Ryan Hewitt was an artist that I looked at, and you can see his work just down here. And it's kind of like, I couldn't work out whether they were photographs that had been painted over. That's how it appeared to me. So I got some pictures from Vogue and like painted over them with acrylic. And then I cut off a head and then put some brainwaves in it going like that. So using a mixture of magazine cuttings and paint to make the brainwaves. And that was inspired by Ryan Hewitt. I think he's a South African artist. Okay, this is my Muslim one. So I used the Hessian, and I thought, what if you just have the eyes showing? And I'd been to a fabric shop, and unfortunately they didn't give me the whole bunny when they gave me a cutting, but this kind of bunnies, and I thought bunnies might be quite a nice motif to use, as in bunny boiler. So that was that, and then I used the kind of brainwaves and stitched in the eyes, and I just thought it does look like a burqa, which is fine. And then I kind of based on the Vogue art that you saw earlier, I cut out that shape into actual kind of picture of brainwaves, and then did the Prozac versus Vogue, cut out a head and had that coming out, and I quite like that. So then I found out, actually, while I was thinking for my shoestring budget project how I was going to decorate the shop window, I thought, oh, party poppers, they're great brainwaves. So I put some of those in, and they're just they're a bit like the packaging, but they're even better because they're rainbow colours. And it's kind of, you know, it's got a pop to it. It's kind of quite nice, quite fun just popping them. So I thought they were quite nice. Party popper rainbow brainwaves, so they're quite nice to use. And then I just printed out some detail on the artist I mentioned earlier who does the dots. It's Yayo Kasuma, and this just talks a little bit about her. The world sees spots and millions upon millions of dots when it comes to Japanese artist Yayo Kasuma. She's 86. She's known as the polka dot princess. She's dropped out the art world for much of her life, retiring voluntarily to a Japanese kind of mental hospital. So she's been going for a while, and she even wears the dots, you know. So I thought I'd wear my garland, and that is pretty much it. That's where I'm going with my research. I think the standouts, I really liked the brain surgery. So for my final major project, I'm going to concentrate on the brain surgery. I put some stuff on my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/medfed by Erica. I hadn't sold anything, and I didn't sell anything on my shoestring budget project either. So I thought maybe I could lower the prices. Some of the black and white collages might work, or maybe look into photocopying and develop the collage for the 888 collective, because there may be an opportunity there.
But yeah, I really enjoyed doing the sketchbook. Completely went off on a tangent with lots of random ideas, but at the same time it was quite cathartic. And I do feel that while I'm studying brainwaves and schizophrenia, I mean, even if I was studying something else, there's something very cathartic about art. So yeah, that's the research. Thank you very much for listening. Cheers. Bye.